as a part of F1 hire. Um, oh, I didn't realize we were not recording until now. Okay. So the purpose of a resume is the first impression. And again, recruiters will look at your resume for 6 to 9 seconds. If it's a mess, they're going to walk away because there are so many other resumes they can look at. If it is not eye-catching in terms of keywords, they're not going to spend additional time because they'll look at someone who's a little more organized with their resume. So, in this competitive job market, your resume needs to be easily and quickly readable and highlight the skills that are needed for the job. So, again, tailor your resumes. If you're going to if you have 25 skills, but only name one skill that is relevant to this job, even though you have that other skills, but just forgot to put it on your resume, it's not going to help you. It's going to hurt you. So, a resume is not a curriculum vitae, so it is typically 1 to 2 pages maximum. If you are newer with very, very little job experience, it should be on the 1 page end of things. I know that those of you who don't have internships or work experience during your undergraduate years or your graduate years, you might include projects, particularly those of you who are in, say, computer science. You may put projects on there, but again, it should not be closer to the 2 page max, only because at that point you don't have real work experience. You have school experience. Um, you want to use professional font and formatting in most fields. So unless you are put in sort of a creative design marketing field, those are areas where you could be a little more interesting and dynamic with your resume. But if you are in, say, a STEM field, most fields, you're going to use a standard professional font and formatting style. Um, while Times New Roman font is fine, it is a bit outdated. So there are newer ones to really select from, and you can just Google those to see what the most popular ones are now for 2025. Um, I know you're going to try to cram a lot of things onto 1 page, but you don't want to make your font really tiny. Um, I personally find a 10-point font too small. So I tend to err on 11, sometimes maybe a 10.5, playing with the margins a little bit. You know, you don't need margins that are 1 inch on left and right side of your resume. And the way to keep your font reasonable in size is to look at what is relevant to that particular job you are applying for. At the top, you should always include your relevant contact information. So your name, your email, and your phone number. The one thing that I caution you against is when you put your email, it should not be a fun, childlike email like Happy Panda 25. And it should be a forever email. So if you're going to use your usc.edu email address, make sure that's an address that you're going to be able to keep forever. You probably are not. And that's why I would default to a professional email that is a personal email that you keep forever. Because there are companies like our company, I do hold on to resumes. So if I don't have a position for someone at the time, but I might in the future, I hold on to their resume if I think their experience is relevant, and I'll try to contact them later on. And email is the best way to contact someone, the easiest way now versus phone. If you do have a LinkedIn, you can include your LinkedIn at the top as well with your contact information. In the United States, it is very atypical to have a photo. So I would advise you to avoid using a photo unless it is required. And I'm not really sure of the legality of actually requiring you to have a photo in the US. So you may want to look into that. This is to avoid things like discrimination based on age, based on any facial features, et cetera, et cetera. So keep that in mind. Also, the newest thing too is because we send out a lot of resumes now, there is no need to really include your street address, your specific street address, but you should include your city, your state, and the zip code at the top. I will show you a little bit later. So, if you're applying, oftentimes most jobs now don't require a cover letter. If you don't are not required to submit a cover letter, or you do not have a lot of experience, work experience, you can include a summary or an objective statement tailored to the job description at the top of your resume. However, if you have a lot of work experience, internship experience, I would skip that because it's better to use the space to describe the active tasks, the active accomplishments you have made. You want to highlight your key skills up front. What I like to see on resumes that I've enjoyed, that not I've enjoyed, that have been helpful to me to filtering candidates is if the key skills are highlighted with a bold font. For example, if you have used Python before, bold that word Python. If you have used SPSS before in one of your jobs, bold that. That draws the eye, and if they match into the job description, the job posting, it will help the reviewer sort of tune tune in to what is important on your resume and have them think more deeply about you. So to get more than that 6 to 9 seconds of initial review. Education should be typically included at the top, particularly if you're newer into the job field. And then you list your experience in reverse chronological order. So the most recent one, the one that is you're doing at the present. There should be a section for certifications, but remember, if it is a certification in your field that you tend to just say AWS and people know it, that's fine, but you should write it out first, then in parentheses the abbreviation, and then for the rest of the resume you can just continue using only the abbreviation. So if you decide, okay, I do think I would want to have, or I need to have a compelling summary statement because I honestly don't have a whole bunch of job experience and I want to highlight these things that are relevant to this job that I'm applying for at Adobe, you want to keep it brief, 2 to 3 sentences, tailor it to the job post from Adobe, highlight why you're the best candidate. So you look at their job post, what are they seeking? What skills do you have? Avoid things that are more generic, excellent team player. And you want to be focused on your particular skills. So this is an example, which is still a little bit generic, but there are and specific things should be included. So detailed oriented, data scientist. So I am a data scientist. I have 4 years of experience. These are the things, data analysis, machine learning, predictive modeling that I have done in the past 4 years of my life. I can use complex data sets. I have been a part of decision making. I have been a part of optimizations in businesses, and I can definitely communicate with others, stakeholders and non-stakeholders, and technical experts and non-technical experts, which means you have the ability to talk to lay people and skilled people. So if there are specific tools, like I said above, that you are as a data scientist, you are able to use that also supplement your candidacy for this particular job, add those in as well. Focus on skills that match the job description. You want to separate your hard and soft skills. For STEM fields, the focus is more going to be on your hard skills. So you do want to say if you've worked on a team, collaborated, worked collaboratively, studied interdisciplinarily. You can do that, but the focus will be on what are the skills that you've learned to be an engineer that you can apply on day one of your job. The assumption is that most people, even if they're not a good team player, even if they're not a good communicator, are going to say they are. So it's less of a focus on soft skills. However, if you are applying for a position, say, to work with children in some sort of therapeutic role, yes, you'll want to highlight your soft skills because those are integral to working with children. So think about what is most important to the job that you are applying for. Technical proficiencies are important. They can be added to a section that is called core competencies. Oftentimes, I just call it additional skills, and you want to highlight the expertise, the languages, the skills, that specific skills that you do have. Four things that are for computer languages. The recommendation is also after each language to parenthesize your proficiency level. So advanced, beginner, so to include that. That way, a person at the other end will know how skilled you are, how much training you need to have. Be honest. And this is, if you do have an additional section, additional skills section, this is also where you put your spoken languages. So I had a student who was native in English and Mandarin, and then said to me, "Well, I took 2 years of Spanish. Should I put Spanish on there?" And I said to him, "Well, here's my question to you. If they started asking you questions in Spanish in your interview, would you be able to answer them?" And he said, "Probably not," which is why then we chose to leave it off. So be aware of that. You want to highlight the best parts of your skills and who you are, but be aware that if you embellish and you cannot own up to it in the interview, that could be problematic. When it comes to your work experience or your project experience or your internship experience, my suggestion is not to use full narratives. It is to use bullet points because they are faster, they get to the point much quicker, and you use them just to describe your responsibilities. When using bullet points, my suggestion is no period after each bullet because they're not complete sentences. So you don't really need that. If you do, that's totally fine. Just make sure there's a period after every single bullet point, but you don't really need it. You want to focus on your achievements, not just your duties. So a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, a little bit of achievements, a little bit of duties. Think about quantifying. So you want to use active words such as developed, implemented, optimized, led, and then quantify your accomplishments. How much did you accomplish? What did you increase? If you decrease something in a good way, how many percentages, how big a percentage, how many people did you work with, how many projects that you work with? Be aware of the number that you put out there and the impression that it can make on someone. Again, another resume I recently reviewed, someone wrote that he was doing social media for one of their web pages, and his tweet would garner 2,000 views. I did a little bit of research because I was wondering, is 2,000 views a great thing or is it really small? Because to me, it didn't seem like a whole lot. And I learned that when it comes to putting down a number for a tweet, it's really not about the views, it's about the engagement. So a retweet number is better than just 2,000 views. A view number is actually not very impactful. So think about how impactful, when you quantify something, how impactful it is. So this has come up interestingly, which I never thought would. With education, you list your highest degree first, and you should list your undergraduate degree. So even if it's not from this country, so if you have a master's degree from Carnegie Mellon in the US, but your bachelor's degree was from a different university in a different country, it should still be on there because someone needs to know that you have also achieved a bachelor's degree. You don't need your high school information, but you do need your undergraduate degree on there because there are some programs in some disciplines where you can have work experience count as part of your undergraduate degree or undergraduate experience and then directly go into an advanced degree. So there are some fields where that can happen, and that's why you should list the undergraduate degree. If some people choose to include their relevant coursework, you can include it if it's applicable. But again, if you have a lot of work experience and already have a lot of other good, sort of solid information to reflect what you're able to do, then I would not put the coursework on your resume. Generally, it's seen as a space filler for people who have less work experience. And so just be aware of that. You can put it, but only highlight the ones that are really relevant to your job. So I wouldn't highlight an introduction to computer science course or an introduction to psychology course. And if you're applying for a job, it should be sort of higher level courses that are related to the job you're applying for. You want to add certifications that are relevant to the job. So if you're applying for an engineering position, if your first aid First aid CPR certified? Probably not necessary. But if you are, again, applying to work with children, yes, you want to apply, you want to add in that first aid CPR certification. If you are entry level, so, okay, this is, my first job out of school, master's or bachelor's, you can include your academic honors and scholarships. But you want to be aware, you're not going to want to go back 6 years to an academic honor that you've gotten before. You're looking at more recent information, recent things that you have done. Check on the um, action-oriented language. So there's passive language, there's action-oriented language. The advice is always action-oriented language that shows things you did. Make yourself look proactive. So a passive phrase where reports were generated on a weekly basis. It doesn't say it's the reports is sort of your lead. Whereas if you're going to be more active in sort of describing your position, you would start with the word generated reports that were used at the team meeting on a weekly basis. So just flip some of the action words. Be clear and concise in your descriptions. Really ask yourself, do I need to describe this much detail? Do I need to say in this particular position, I learned X, Y, and Z. I learned to cooperate with other team members and uh, create weekly newsletters with Photoshop. There's a different way to be briefer and more concise with that. So think about ways in which to do that. And again, use industry specific terminology. Terms that are relevant to your particular field, those are things that should be in there because they show your ability to understand your field, your knowledge of your field, and what skills you bring to that job from that field. It is important to tailor your resume to the job. It is, and I know it is incredibly tedious because no one's applying for like 5 jobs anymore. You're all applying to many, many jobs. Ideally, for the ones that you want the most, you do the tailoring of your resume to. Sure, you do it for all if you could, but who has that time if you're sending out 200 resumes? But for the ones that you want the most, be a little more clear about why you want to be there. So if you are, again, if you are applying to Adobe and you want to include a summary statement, okay, great, but draft it for that position at Adobe. You want to mirror the language that they're using in a job posting. So if they're using certain keywords and you have those keywords in your repertoire and you know how and you have those skill sets, use that same language back when you're writing your resume or your summary statement. You want to highlight experiences that are most relevant to the job. So if you have had 20 internships, congratulations, but you don't need to talk about your internship that was at your dentist's office if you are not applying for a job in that particular field. You want to adjust your summary and your skills to match the job requirements. And the Frog Hire extension does allow you to pull up the job description alongside your resume so you can look at what they're looking for and then add those keywords to your resume. So I encourage you to really do that for yourself. It'll help you stay organized. It'll make it go faster for you to see the resume next to the job post. Proofread, proofread your resume multiple times for typos or errors. Little things like a missing period, a missing apostrophe, a sharp HR person will pick up on those right away. Every time I've been helping one of my team members search for someone who is helping to advise students on their job search. I have received numerous resumes with typos on them. And I immediately toss them because if you cannot send a good resume to apply for a job, I can't trust you to help a student of mine apply for a job. Okay, so proofread your resume. If you do a cover letter, proofread that. Ensure that your formatting is consistent. So we advise against a 2-column resume. Some of the larger companies have applicant tracking systems, and they search so a computer AI reads the resume first, and they get confused really easily. And a 2-column resume, a resume with really odd formatting with extra horizontal lines in it, could throw ATS off. So keep it simple, keep it interesting, keep it focused. Don't think about designs too much. It just needs to look professional. Like I said before, bullet points and also white space can give you readability. So if you can, incorporate a half line space between each position, great. Otherwise, it's very smushed together. If you are still in school, I really encourage you to go to your career services office and have an expert at least glance at your resume. You're paying tuition, it is part of your services. Take advantage of it now. If you're out of school, you can pay for resume reviewers, but it's not cheap. So just make sure if you're in school to get that service for yourself. You don't want to use a creative font, so definitely not Comic Sans. I don't know who uses Comic Sans for anything, and try to avoid the outdated ones. Okay, stay relevant. All right, so let me just show you a couple of resumes. So this is all News Times Roman font, so I would probably get rid of that. I would change that font. Both of these resumes choose to have the horizontal line under the education, coursework, objective area. My suggestion is probably to take that out to not throw ATS off. You'll see that there are dates on relevant dates on the resume, which is important. What I like about the one on the left is they do highlight their technical skills and they highlight their certifications and their achievements. What I like about the one on the right is there's a very short objective statement. However, I would have helped this person craft it to be more specific to the job that they were interested in. And what is also good about the one on the right is that they have listed that they were on the dean's list for 6 semesters, which is great. The one thing on the resume on the right that I would have probably excluded is the teamwork, the ski club, the intramurals. That's really not relevant for the computer science field, so I would take it out. That is something you can showcase during an interview as part of your personality because they may ask you, what do you do to de-stress? But not really less necessary for a computer science job when you're submitting the resume. Okay. Hyperlinks are good. So if you do have, portfolios, you can hyperlink. You can always do that. And then for the person on the left, you can see because they've only had one internship, they chose to include some coursework and they are not the intro level classes. Okay, so both are nice. They're single column resumes. There's no photo information. Their contact information is at the top. And so you can choose whatever style you want, but again, stay professional. Do not go creative unless you are in one of those creative fields. The resume, if you are for some reason submitting a hard copy, it should be on white or ivory paper. I've seen pink and blue paper before, not appropriate. Again, maybe in a creative design field, but definitely not in most fields of the students or of our Frog Hire users. Okay, all right. So that's pretty much it. I encourage you to have someone look at your resume for you. We really appreciate you joining us today for this webinar. Like I've said, we have seen international students really focused on the visa. But before you can even ask a visa question, you need to be interviewed. And before you can even be interviewed, you need to have a strong resume. And there are many, many improvements most of us can make. And just one thing for what I do my own resume on Google Docs and I call it a working resume. So every time I have a new experience within my role at my company, I just throw it onto my working resume. Because when I apply for a new job at a later point in time, I'm going to forget some of the specific things that I did. But if it's on a resume, it's a working resume, I can always have it there. And then as I move forward in my career, the older positions will drop off my resume. Okay. All right. And that is it. So if we have questions, we are you're welcome to ask them. Let me go to the chat.
Yeah.
Do we have?
Oh my God. So first question is not directly related to today's topic. Is it possible to do my job search according to my skills through Frog Hire instead of job title to open up my possibilities? That's a very good question, and it's also a very good feature request, actually. So currently we don't for well, our tool works as an extension to your browser, which means you add it to your browser and you do regular search on LinkedIn, Indeed, Google's, Handshake, and Glassdoor, those job posting platforms. You just do your regular job search. And if that job posting platform support you to search by your skills, then you can do it definitely. And we'll give you like additional uh, on top of that job posting platform, will give you additional information regarding the employers and regarding the positions. And that's it. So at our platforms, we don't have job postings. So we don't have that um, support for you to search skills on our platform. But that's a good future request. I'll bring it to our team and we'll have an internal discuss about that. Thank you. Can we have the recorded version afterward? Yeah, we're going to send you the recording and we'll also upload to our YouTube channel.
Okay, and then someone asked, they have 15 years of professional experience, but there's a 5-year gap period, which is not necessarily job related. Should I leave it off even if it results in a gap on the resume? So it kind of depends on what you are doing in that 5 years. If you have a 5-year gap and you are volunteering in the Peace Corps, I would put that on there. If you have a 5-year gap because you took time off to be a parent to your young child, there's really no way to integrate that into your resume. However, you should be very prepared to answer the question of where is this gap? What happened during this gap if it's not on your resume? So again, if you're a computer scientist, you went off and did Habitat for Humanity for 5 years, yeah, you can put that on there. Even though it's not applicable, it was sort of a working thing. That's something that would be interesting. And while being a parent for 5 years and staying at home with your child is hard work, it's not something that you would probably put on your resume, but just be prepared to discuss it. Okay. I think that's it, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
thank you
that's
guys
it.
for being here. We hope it was
Thank you
helpful.
guys.
You will get a
Yeah.
recording.
Thank
And
you.
remember, we're frog hire now.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you guys. Good
Everyone, have a
luck.
great day.
Yeah. Bye.